pills. I'm the advisor to renewable energies to the Brahma Kumaris, and I will be the moderator for tonight's session. The fourth day of the COP is ending, and already some major controversies are surfacing. Some say that there is no need to phase out fossil fuels to reach 1.5 degrees, whilst others, mostly scientists, they say there's no more time to lose. In addition, greenhouse gas emissions are still on the rise. Satellite data shows that many countries and firms do not provide accurate data. Another big culprit, which is often overlooked, is methane gas, which is almost 80 times more powerful than carbon emission. Methane gas is usually emitted from coal mines or a byproduct from gas and oil production. So a lot more has to be done to save our climate. Climate Wisdom Studio will keep you up to date what's going on in the conference. Today, we have a bit of a change with our guests. I have three esteemed speakers with me on today's panel, and Martin Frick could not come, but we could win Shantanu Mandal to join us today for this panel discussion. Shantanu has been to several COPs and is the youth representative from the Brahma Kumaris to UNEP, and is working with International Union for Conservation of Nature and Yungo. Welcome, Shantanu.
Thank you so
Shantanu
much.
has also practiced Raja Yoga meditation for the last 20 years and is a radio presenter for Radio Madhuban in India. He has a background in fashion and holds a degree in fine arts. We're also very glad to welcome today Hanna Soldal. She is coming all the way from Sweden, and she works as an advocacy advisor to the Church of Sweden, focusing on climate justice. She strives to mobilize the congregations and individual members of the Church of Sweden to become climate ambassadors. Hanna holds a master in science and ethnobotany. I had to learn this word, ethnobotany, a research field focusing on the relationship between humans and nature. She is also an active writer and opinion maker. And last not least, I would like to welcome Sister Jayanti Kriplani. She is the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris and a spiritual organization with more than 6,000 meditation centers in India and 800 abroad. The Brahma Kumaris is accredited to the UNFCCC since 2009, and Sister Jayanti has been to most of the climate conferences since then. She's also our main representative to the UN. So welcome all three of you to today's panel discussion.
Thank you.
And let me just shoot off with my first question to Shantanu. You have been already to several climate conferences so far, and you worked also closely with the youth organization of the UN, Yungo. And I came to know you're a vegan, and your motto is believe that simplicity is kindness. And is a very nice motto. Can you tell us a bit what motivated you to become vegan? Global food production and farming is often overlooked as one of the major emitter of carbon emissions. Can a vegan diet bring significant reduction in emissions and turn the tide?
Thank you so much, Golo, for inviting me for this talk. And the question is very relevant when you said that methane is one of the primary gases that adds to the greenhouse gases. But people don't know so much about it because the media and the advertisements and the science world draws everybody's attention only to carbon dioxide, because methane gas also comes out from cattle industry, the burps and farts of the cows and so many of cattle. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's like the elephant in the room. So for me, how my vegan journey started would be very weird, long Bollywood movie, but if I have to shorten it, it would be, I was in Paris studying fashion. And it was in the year 2010 when people were doing little bit things about veganism. And I thought it's a good thing, but I am very fond of my cottage cheese, paneer from India and ghee and other things. So I would not give it up. I came back to India 2-3 years. I was working in the fashion field, and one Diwali, the festival of lights, I was in Mount Abu, our spiritual headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris, and there's a fellow meditation practitioner, Manfred, who is a vegan? And he gave me a coconut drink to taste. And I said, it's very delicious. Give me the recipe. He said, you can never make it. I said, why? I can. He said, you can never. I said, give me the reason why I can't. He said, the milk is from the coconuts, the mango is from my gardens, everything is organic, there's nothing from the market. How can you do that? I said, oh. Then I said, are you a vegan that you make your own milk? He said, yes. I said, oh, I wanted to become vegan, but it's very difficult. He just looked at me and said, Shantanu, it's just a thought away. And that sentence kind of, like how in the fantasy movies, when there are powers going on, you see the waves coming in. I felt like something got in me and I was like, oh, just a thought away. So that day, I still remember the day, 5th of November, I decided, let me try today. If I find myself inclined towards the food platter that is kept in a Diwali dinner in our headquarters, you know how it is. So if I'm pulled even a little bit, then I'll eat. But if I don't feel any inclination, I will feel that this is like a signal for me to start a journey and see where it takes me. And from 5th November, in another 2 or 3 months, I found myself doing a lot of activism. The word activism is famous, so I'm using it, but I would say started seeing myself doing a lot of voluntary work for the nature and the environment. So the vegan food lifestyle, veganism is not just a food style or a dietary conditioning. When you associate veganism with just food, people tend to avoid it. It's about a mindset.
And I heard that veganism helps in reducing the emissions significantly.
Yeah.
And this is apparently a big step which is required to curb the effects of climate change. Wonderful. That's a very nice story how you became vegan. Hannah, this is one of your first, this is basically the first climate conference you are entering from the inside. And there are almost 80,000 people, I heard. And we're meeting in this huge expo city, and hundreds of programs are taking place every day, and maybe 50 parallel. And it's not easy to navigate such an event, and sometimes one even feels bewildered. What's your personal motivation? What brings you to the COP? And how is it related to your work you're doing in Sweden?
Well, that's a big question, I think, what brings me here. I mean, if you think about it very rationally, I'm here due to my work for ACT Church of Sweden, the aid organization of Church of Sweden, where I work focusing on climate justice and advocating for that. So that's something that I can do here, of course, as well, but in an even bigger scale, and also meet new new friends and the connections who strive for the same thing, like Shantanu and yourself. But if I'm going to myself, like how could I then end up here? I think that I've always had this urge in me to do something for our earth, for the environment. From when I was a child, like when I saw these little worms on the road, I tried to lift them to the other side so they wouldn't be run over. Or I think I was quite young when I realized, like, why aren't we in Sweden having white Christmases anymore? Because nowadays some years we do, some years we don't, but at least I remember it as when I was a child, that they were always white, and if I can do something, I'd love to be part of that. So that's why I'm here, I would say.
And are you finding it easy at the COP to navigate and meet people in all this hustle and bustle?
Well, so far, I think I've been very lucky with very nice meetings. Even just on the metro, someone sitting next to you, seeing your badge and asking, oh, where are you from? I think people are very open-minded. And where I mostly hang out in the pavilions, in the side events, there's a lot of civil society representatives.
So it's a great place to meet.
Yes.
And make contacts.
Yes.
And sort of beautiful exchange of ideas and concepts. Yeah.
And also in the faith pavilion, which is new to this COP. Yeah. I think I found so many interesting.
Yeah, wonderful. I've also seen it. It's a wonderful space, and I heard it's quite busy Every day, lots of programs are going on from the faith communities. That's nice. That's a great motivation. Sister Genti, climate change is accelerating, and in many places of the world, people do suffer from drought, heat waves, or floods. I know that the Brahma Kumaris, especially in India, has a good capacity, a lot of people, many centers, and we're helping in cases of emergencies. I remember there was an earthquake and we immediately responded, and we sent water, food, blankets, and so on. But however, we have certain limitations, what we can do as a spiritual organization. From a spiritual perspective, what's the reason for the suffering of individuals and also on collective level? And is there a spiritual practice to deal with such tragic situations?
It is a very difficult situation. And what I'm seeing is that the world goes through many different cycles. And I'd like to share a concept that is probably quite novel for many people. But just as we have the seasons, we have spring and summer and autumn and winter, or we have the cycle of the day and night, in the same way, the world also historically goes through many different cycles. And there's a period in which there's beauty and truth, and that gradually reduces. And then there's a period in which it's like Pandora's box opens up, and there's all the ills of the world that pop up. And then there's a time when there's darkness. And in that darkness, there's a huge amount of suffering for everyone. And I think that according to this understanding, it makes sense to me that, yes, everything in nature goes through a cyclical process. And so historically also we go through this. And the period we're now passing through is a period which is a very dark age. And so it's not just one group of people that's suffering, but if I stand back as a detached observer, then I see the picture of the planet. And maybe in some places it's inner pain and sorrow. On another level, it's external pain and sorrow, but the whole world is actually suffering hugely, individually as well as whole communities and the human family as such. And I think that collectively we've been very exposed to external influences of materialism, consumerism, and so there's been a lot of negative action that's been created. And they say, as you sow, so shall you reap. And so we've, all of us together, have done so much exploitation of nature, for example, so much violence against nature, that nature is now reacting. And so in some cases, maybe there's drought, in another case, there's floods. A place where I've lived most of my life is the UK, and we never had any natural disasters as such. But over the last several years, there's always flooding going on. And so this is the case everywhere. In some form or another, they're suffering. But human beings have the capacity within themselves to change all of this. If we were to have a spiritual understanding of what's going on, it's called the law of karma. Karma means action. Action brings reaction, and that's what's going on. We're seeing the results of what we have done to nature. We've upset the whole balance of nature. And so, yes, we can do something about it personally, but also collectively. The power of God's love, the power of meditation can help us personally, but also we can share those vibrations with the world. And also on a personal level, we can change our lifestyle, and that can definitely reduce our carbon footprint.
It's a very interesting and deep answer. And so we can see the situation in the world as a big correction by Mother Nature to bring us back on the path of righteousness, in a way. Very lovely. Thanks very much. Shantanu, youngsters often want to see fast action and a quick fix to the climate disaster. I know when I was young, I was like, everything had to go fast. As we all can observe, the COP process is very, very slow process. It's highly bureaucratic and needs approval by everybody, which makes it even more complicated. And often there are also serious conflicts and different parties and different positions. Often youngsters get seriously disturbed by this slow progress. And we can see a rising number of climate anxiety and also burnout amongst the youngsters. And I know you're a regular meditation practitioner since 20 years. What's your advice when you come across such young people which are disturbed or which are in a personal crisis? How to help this?
I would just change the word advice because I don't see myself in a position to advise anyone. But I do have friends who have seen me and have asked questions that you look very chilled. What are you doing? I think that could be an answer to become what I want people to be doing. It's like even Gandhiji said, be the change that you want to see in the world. So for me, when I started the journey of working in the field of environment, I started with many friends who are not working in environment anymore because they are, as you said, burnt out, exhausted. And it happened because the thoughts they were creating were of why it is not happening, why it is not happening. And these thoughts were something that were taking away their vital energy that they could have done on something else, like a solution oriented thinking. What I practice is that I ask myself, it's a very simple question that I have borrowed from Dadi Janki, who was one of our greatest leaders of the organization. She used to always ask yourself at any point of time who you are, whom do you belong to, and what is that you need to do at that particular moment of time? Why are you there? Just these three questions, whenever I reflect, I mean, at a time of work, you don't get a time to sit and meditate probably. So just asking at that point of time, why I am here? What is that I need to do? Sometimes it would be just listen to someone. Don't say anything to it, just listen, just being there. And if they could feel that we are being heard, they are served. They feel that sustenance. So this has been my way of being with the young people. And I think I have seen changes when they see us stable and calm. When whoever is doing whatever spiritual practice or like they are doing prayers or they are doing chanting, whatever spiritual practice, whoever is doing, if they are doing it with a pure heart, the heart is sustained. I think that's why it is important for people to take out time for themselves. Without self-care, there cannot be any other form of care.
So sustain the heart, fill it with love and compassion, and then the hand will do the right thing.
Yes.
Very wonderful, lovely. Hannah, we met last year in Stockholm, and you shared with us about your work in climate change and especially with the youth organization of the church in Sweden. Can you explain a bit more in detail the projects of how the Church of Sweden is tackling climate change, and also let us know more about ecocide law? I came across that new word, ecocide law, when I saw one of your talks in the YouTube. And can you let us know what would be the implications of such a law?
Yes, so exactly. Church of Sweden Youth, which you mentioned, is Church of Sweden's democratic youth organization. We're our own organization, and I'm still, even though now I'm working for the adult church at Church of Sweden, I'm still a member of Church of Sweden Youth. I can be till an active member till I'm 30, so I have a few months left. And then, I'm creating a new member here, so that's really nice. And it's, I think, an amazing organization because it's meant to give the youth within the church a voice, a platform. Also, I mean, they organize, or I would say we organize ourselves. We have our own priorities and try to make the voices of the youth within the church heard and raise the perspectives of the youth. I think it's really, really important. And within this organization, there are, of course, many different people, as you know, like youth is not a homogeneous group, but a lot of them, at least from my perspective, maybe because I was in that myself, are part of also the climate movement and the environmental movement. We have this network which is called, in Swedish, Agera Volontärerna, which means like the ACT volunteers for action, which is also a collaboration between ACT Church of Sweden and Church of Sweden. So you get both this vivid youth movement and an open door into this international worldwide
And
church.
how comes the ecocide law into the picture now?
Yeah, I speak too much. So ecocide, we decided on our yearly democratic meeting to stand behind the demands of making ecocide an international crime. And ecocide, you can almost hear it in the word. It's like murder of nature.
Murder of nature.
Yeah,
okay.
the destruction of ecosystems. That this should actually be illegal to perform, because today you can, as a big company or state even, make huge environmental degradation.
So first it has to become a national law,
Yeah.
and then all the countries have to agree to make it an internationally binding law. Am I right?
Well, yeah, I think it can go in different ways, but it needs to become one of these international laws.
Binding laws. Okay.
Exactly. And now, actually, just very recently, the European Union, they decided upon a law which could be comparable to an ecocide law. So things are happening. There's a lot of people lobbying for this.
Yeah, I know there are quite a lot of people who are experts in international law here, and they're watching very closely.
I'm not, but I think this is important.
Okay, that's very interesting to make a binding international law to make the murder of nature punishable. That's quite interesting. Shantanu, at present the outlook of the world is a little bit grim, and King Charles has told world leaders we're triggering feedback loops in the climate system that will cause irreversible disaster. The crisis is also a chance for humanity to wake up. It's a wake-up call also for transformation. I know this is not an easy question, but can you see light at the end of the tunnel?
Absolutely. What else do you see if you are in a tunnel? You always wait for the light.
You have also an interesting
And yeah,
badge.
I am light. This is my favorite mantra, that I am light. You think of a room that is dark and it is pitch dark. You can't see anything. But if there is the tiniest pinch of light, like this, it will attract everyone. I just have to be that little light. And if I can do that, it would inspire me also to keep going on, and whoever needs to be inspired, they'll be inspired. What I would like to just add to this is that when it is already going down and everybody's frustrated and they are anxious, they are stricken by eco grief, they are losing their lands, they are already down. If I also think negative, if I also think waste, if I also think things that are not conducive or doesn't increases the energy of the world, I am also adding to that doom. So if I hold on to hope, if I hold on to wisdom, if I hold on to love, if I hold on to peace, I would be at least in that side of the world where I am holding the rope to bring up. Today in the COP, there was a nice story someone shared with me. He said, there are a lot of starfishes that comes on the shore and they are dying. One child just goes and starts throwing the starfishes back into the sea. And somebody came and said, there are thousands of them. How can you save them? He said, yeah, I can't save thousands of them. What I'm doing doesn't matter for all of them. But the one that I threw into the water, my effort mattered the most for that. And I just care for this much. So whatever I can do, I should just think of doing that much, and doesn't take the burden on the shoulder that I have to change the whole world. I change myself, my thoughts, every day, by the moment, and things would be better.
It's a very practical approach. Thank you very much. Sister Genti, from a spiritual perspective, two of the biggest culprits are ego and greed. A recent study claims that 1% of the super rich, they emit the same amount of carbon as the 60% of the world population, which are the poorer side. 1% equal emission as 60% of the poorest in the world. One is almost at loss what to say about such a perspective. And I know that the Brahma Kumaris propagates an ideal new age coming. In Hindi, you call it Satyuga, the age of truth, which has a very deep meaning. Also here for the conference, if everybody would be truthful, it would be a different story. Can you explain a bit as how in such an ideal future society resources are being distributed and handled?
I think first I want to say that the injustice that's happening in the world is what is making us feel that we have to move in a different direction. And the different direction has to be a spiritual one, because I don't see that technology or money or any of the other brilliant ideas that people have made any difference in the last 50 years. Things have got worse, as you explained. And so it has to be an inner change. And once there's an inner change, there is enough for all. And so in the world of Satyug, the age of truth, definitely, where we feel that we are one family, one humanity, where we really treat each other with that love and respect, then each one will have the resources they need, and the rest will be shared amongst all. And so the earth has huge abundance. Just imagine, the earth has been sustaining us for millennia and still continues to do that. No matter what we're doing to nature, nature is still looking after us. So when we've cleansed ourselves and cleansed the world, and the world is pure, nature is pure again, nature is balanced again, then definitely there's enough and plenty for everyone. And so it'll be a very natural distribution. I don't think you'll have to go out and spend money buying a little packet of wheat. It'll be there in the fields, and it'll ripen at the right time. It will come to you in a very easy, natural way. Everything will be abundant.
A paradise.
Something like that.
And I remember that Mahatma Gandhi said that there's enough for man's need, but not for man's greed. And even now we're almost 8 billion people, still the planet is able to supply more or less enough food. Quite an interesting question. Yeah, and a very nice answer. Thank you very much. Hannah, in the internet, I've seen you reading one of your favorite poems. It's from the Swedish Book of Hymns, and it's a very lovely one, and I would like to quote you. The moon and the sun, the water and the wind, the flower and the children, all of this was created by God. Heaven on earth, all it's belonged to God, and therefore we want to give praise to God. It's a beautiful poem, very lovely. And if humanity would try to live by it, I'm sure this would have far-reaching consequences for our societies, especially in terms of ownership, justice, distribution of resources, and so on. It would be rather revolutionary, I would say. Can you share a bit what this hymn tells you on a personal level, and how it could be translated in the context of this climate conference?
Yes, thank you. It's a hymn that we usually sing in my church, in Church of Sweden, with the children. So from when I was a child, this was the first hymn that I learned by heart, and I still love it very, very, very much. And I think what it tells me, which is also some like the core of my faith as a Christian, is that I believe that God created this earth, like every part of it, all of us, all of the flowers, the children, the moon, the sun, and that's something that means that all of this is also holy. And how do you treat something holy? You don't exploit it or you don't damage it. You treat it as the most, valuable thing that you would ever have, something that you cherish, that you want to give to the next generation. So I think if you live by this philosophy, this concept, if you have this in mind while you're at the COP negotiating, I think it can definitely make you take the right decisions. And it also, to me, just singing it makes me happy, hopeful, and I think that's something really important when you're at the COP meeting. Yes.
We all should sing a little bit more.
Yeah, if you want to, I can sing it too.
I remember some days ago, King Charles III, he gave a speech and he says, the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. What a statement. From a country which started the Industrial Revolution. And was at a certain time, they said the British Raj never ended, the British kingdom never ended.
Never goes down in
the
British
sun
Raj.
never sets, and now the king says the earth does not even belong to the British monarchy. It's very interesting. It's a big change in mindset, for sure. Sister Genti, from a yogi perspective, the most powerful force in the universe is God or the divine. It is attributed. It is said that God knows what is going on. This is a big relief, because sometimes people think God might be there, but he's not coming and with big fanfare and says, hello, I'm here, now I fix everything. But it is said God knows what's going on in the world, and that he's also the healer and the magician. And one of the things which is said about God is, in times of emergency or crisis, God will become accessible to us humans. We get connection and God will start helping us. It's even said he will send angels, and the angels will come and help. Is this global crisis which is unfolding in front of our eyes, is this the time God becomes accessible to us? Please share with us how we can connect to God and become an instrument to bring hope and transformation.
Beautiful question. And yes, if I want to communicate with a human being, I'll use sound and I'll use all the devices that are now available for me. But if I want to communicate with God, I don't need these things. I just simply need the power of the mind. And so in meditation, what we're doing in Raj Yoga meditation, because there's many varieties, but in Raj Yoga meditation, I go inside, become aware of the inner being, connect with my thoughts to the divine, and I can feel a response coming to me from the divine. And yes, I do believe that God is accessible to everyone, especially now, because we need God's presence in our life. And as I connect with the divine, I'm able to receive from the divine the wisdom, the light, the truth, the purity, the joy that I would like to have in my life. And so that response that comes to me through connection is something that gives me further faith and courage that yes, there is a being out there who is listening and who is also responding. And if I continue with this practice, I know that I'm going through many changes in a positive direction, but that's available to everyone. Everyone can make that contact, make that connection, and experience God's magic. You spoke about the magician. Well, I think that definitely God is the magician, God is the healer, and God's intervention in human affairs is actually to change our mindset, where our mindset and our awareness was totally material, physical, limited. Now, when I start connecting, then God is able to touch my intellect and change my consciousness so that I now begin to follow my conscience. Up until now, even when we've understood that what we're doing is wrong, we'll still go and do it. It happens all the time for everyone. But today, if I begin to meditate, I'm opening myself up to God's light and love. And as that touches my intellect, I begin to change. I begin to see what is wisdom and truth and what I need to do. Like Shantanu said, what do I need to do today? I'm not just asking myself, I'm also asking the divine, and I will be guided. And so I believe that God doesn't come with a magic wand and say, okay, here I am, as you said.
Wouldn't be bad.
Well, there are so many magicians that people would get confused. Who's this new one?
Okay.
And of course, most magicians aren't for real. They don't really know what magic is. But God's magic is to change our awareness. And when I change in my thinking, my perception, my understanding, then I can change my life. And yes, that's going to influence everyone around me. So the magic that God does is to change us one at a time. Not even en masse, but each one individually, because each one is the child of that supreme parent. And so God's concern is to uplift every single one.
So that's the magic, that God touches the intellect Then the intellect touches the heart. We are able to change. And then the hands do the right thing, what they're supposed to do. We act in the right way. I'm sure what you said is right. And I can imagine that many of the negotiators or bankers or CEOs of big companies, they are torn apart. On one side, they know for future generations, we should not do this. But on the other side, the pressure to have more profit or to bring the company in a good position or to bring that country in a favorable position is so high that they sometimes or quite often act against actually their heart or what they understand. So it's quite a dilemma, and I'm happy you mentioned that, how God is healing the intellect, the heart, and brings us into the right action. How wonderful. We're coming to our last round of questions, and Shantanu, please share in one word your good wish for the COP. What should happen in the COP that it is successful? And share one good word, one good wish also for the whole world.
One word for COP should be more people trust each other.
Trust.
And one hope or one good wish for the world would be, what is love without respect? Add respect in life. We say we love the world, love earth, love nature, but what is that without respect? So let's add respect.
Respect, very good. Anna, same question to you. Please share one good wish for the climate conference. It becomes successful or it improves. And also share your good wish for the world.
Yes. Oh, it's so hard to choose. But I think one of the most important things about meetings like this is that the groups affected by the climate crisis are also involved in the process. The local communities, women, indigenous groups,
so
youth.
Inclusion?
Inclusion, yes. Equity, yes. I think that's so important. We often say that there's no climate justice without gender justice, and in that you include
the Brahma Kumaris. I can give you a good example. Brahma Kumaris is administrated by women.
Yeah. Well, that's a role model for COP then. Yes.
We men are in the second row. So include and good wish for the world.
Well, my good wish is that we can actually maybe slow down a bit. I think we've talked a bit about that as well, and see what is surrounding us. What is it that we want to take care of and bring forward to the future?
Maybe reflection.
Yeah, reflection. Reflect on your fellow human beings being next to you on the metro, or the flower on the table, that it's not just me rushing through this life. We're doing it together.
Wonderful.
And you need to act upon that.
Sister Genti, your good wish for the climate conference to become successful, what should be happening? And also your good wish for the world.
I wish that the delegates would take off their hats and be human and experience that we're all one human family. I think the negotiations would go in a very different direction then.
One family.
And the world, my good wish for the world is that there should be harmony.
Yeah. There's a lot of disharmonious events right now happening, and harmony and peace definitely is needed for the planet. Wonderful. Slowly we're coming to the end of our panel discussion, and I'm very glad everybody gave such great inspirations, such a caring and such a wisdom also, especially for our audience worldwide. Time is slowly ticking, and I would like to ask Sister Genti to wrap up a bit this session with a short meditation and guide us towards peace and one world.
Thank you. Sitting comfortably, just follow these ideas and see what happens. I visualize a spark of light in the center of the forehead. Gradually, I come to understand that this is who I am. I am the being of light. I am the being of peace. When my heart is open, feel the presence of the divine. And I focus on the light of the Supreme. I, without a physical form, can connect with the Supreme, the being of light. Within that Supreme Being, God, is the ocean. And from the ocean, I draw all that I need. And the qualities of the ocean reach out to every human soul. Love, truth, joy, and as these qualities reach the human family, they awaken. They begin to move in the right direction towards heaven itself. And I can feel the soul being transformed. God's light, the vibrations of love, reach the entire animal kingdom. The planet and all within the planet are renewed, recharged, and all together we prepare for a better world. Om Shanti.
For this lovely meditation, and I'm sure everybody felt how the atmosphere changed, and hopefully the love of God, the compassion of God reaches out also to all the delegates which are trying to find solutions for the emerging climate catastrophe which is happening all around the world right now. Thanks very much, Anna. Thanks very much, Shantanu. Thanks very much, Sister Jenti, for coming and sharing your insights. This panel time was a bit short, but that it is. We have only 45 minutes all in all. And I like to mention also our patrons and sponsors, the Brahma Kumaris, the Kalptaru Tree Plantation Project, Brahma Kumaris Environment Initiative, Yogis for Future, Radio Madhuban, and India Care Trust. Thanks very much to our sponsors. And I should not forget to give special thanks to the Raja Yoga Center here in Dubai, all the helping hands which made this live studio possible behind the camera, but also catering and so on. A lot of preparation has gone into this studio. Thank you very much for your help. And please join us tomorrow for another session at the same time for another interesting Care, Share and Inspire Wisdom panel discussion live from Dubai. Tomorrow, Sister Sonia from Copenhagen, she will be our moderator and we'll have very interesting guests, very inspiring guests. And for details, please look at our webpage www.echo.brahmakumaris.org. And last not least, thanks very much to you, our audience, which stayed all the time with us. Thanks very much, and good night from Dubai.